What's going on, guys? What's going on, Ty Squad? What's going on, everybody? So, so, Chris Paul. Chris Paul is going to be a free agent this year, and the Los Angeles Clippers are interested in Chris Paul. We know that Chris Paul played for the Los Angeles Clippers before. We know that he played for the Los Angeles Clippers. Chris Paul has had an amazing career. If Chris Paul retired today, I would say he's one of the greatest point guards ever. I would have to say that. And with me saying that, it's more like you have more respect for what somebody does. And I think with Chris Paul going if the Clippers sign him in free agency, just think like you would have James Harden, you would have Kawhi, you would have Chris Paul. That's a big free right there for the Clippers. And the Clippers have their own arena now. And I think with adding Chris Paul to like a Clippers team, like the Clippers this year made the playoffs. I think Chris Paul kind of misses being in the playoffs. So I understand that he might be interested in going back to the Clippers. That the Clippers might be interested. Because it would be the same way, like saying the Clippers a few years ago traded for Paul George to get Kawhi Leonard. If the Clippers never trade for Paul George, the Clippers never get Kawhi Leonard. I'm just keeping it real with y'all. But I do think that this plays a factor Chris Paul where Chris Paul wants what Chris Paul wants to do. Chris Paul wants to play in LA. He wants to play on a Los Angeles team. But if Chris Paul doesn't, I could possibly see him going like back to the Spurs if the Spurs somehow trade for Kevin Durant or for Giannis. Because then if you go back to the Spurs, which I think Chris Paul isn't that much interested in anymore, but if you go back to the Spurs and somehow the Spurs get Kevin Durant or get a Giannis, then honestly, I could honestly see the Spurs. I could honestly see Chris Paul either on the Spurs or on like a championship team like the Sixers or like some contending team or like on the Clippers, because the Clippers make a lot of sense. The Clippers have a different coach. They don't have Doc Rivers. They don't have Doc Rivers anymore. Doc Rivers is a good coach. But I am going to say this as well. It's that with Doc Rivers being the head coach of the 76ers, of the Milwaukee Bucks. I mean, of the Milwaukee Bucks. I could honestly see probably Chris Paul go there. But him going to the Clippers means a lot because I don't think Chris Paul definitely wants to go back to the Spurs in this kind of scenario, because if you do that, if you go back and we see Chris Paul's career, he isn't averaging, he isn't averaging 28 points a game. Chris Paul can give you 18 points a game a night. Chris Paul can give you 18 to 17 points a night. Because with Chris Paul knows how to play off the basketball. Chris Paul knows how to play off the basketball now. He learned that with James Harden before. So it's similar that Chris Paul is honestly, it seems like with Chris Paul, if you add Chris Paul to that Clippers team, you're honestly making the playoffs. The only thing is that Chris Paul has to be healthy during the playoffs, because we know Chris Paul's injury. We know how Chris Paul gets injured every time in the playoffs. But when Chris Paul is a amazing point guard. Like, you can say that he broke a ton of records. He made a lot of All-Star games. He was a part of a big three in the Clippers with Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan. He made the NBA Finals. He did it all. But adding Chris Paul back on this Clippers team is something interesting. But guys, sub if you're new and never give up your dreams. And I hope all of you guys are safe out there. And stay blessed, everybody, and peace.